Good morning. Thank you, Jarrett and Roberta, for allowing me to follow story and to reset the bar down to something a little bit more human, but at the same time, wanted to bring our perspective, especially over the recent months. When cranes fail, they usually fail in a spectacular and catastrophic manner. So to ensure crane safety, relying on a single inspector or single process can't be enough and isn't prudent. Getting a second opinion, having a review of the reviewer, is a way to verify that the process is complete. And a single process without double loop learning lacks the robust investigation to satisfy the need for safety of our tower cranes. In recent years, highly publicized crane failures were the catalyst to take our crane inspections to the next level and to insist that we have a second opinion so crucial to ensuring that our cranes and our projects are safe. As introduced, my name is Peter Gasparini, VP Operations for Ledcor. I want to take you through the benefits here and lessons from Ledcor's engagement of a dedicated third-party crane inspector. There we go. Through the process of getting our dedicated crane inspector, we realized that our crane maintenance records, for various reasons, were not reviewed or considered in the crane inspection process to the extent that they should be. Even third-party annual audits only verified their existence, not necessarily their findings or their follow-up. Inspection reports did not necessarily address all of the potential issues, bent, damaged structure components, for instance. It was impossible to determine all potential visual deficiencies had been considered. Communication and coordination between suppliers, engineers, crane owners requires improvement to build consensus regarding what deficiencies require repair. Real-time troubleshooting. And components, with the understanding that components can be damaged during erection and negating some of the integrity of the pre-erection report findings. Both new and old cranes have the potential to be subject to poor service, to be subject to misadventures, and poor storage and handling. So while older cranes may be more at risk, the age of the crane is not a factor in conducting a targeted third-party inspection. Our audits, especially third-party audits, are a necessary element of the OHS system to verify that a crane is operating correctly. The CSA standard for tower cranes specifies necessity for inspections prior to erection and inspections at erection, as well as other audits, but not to the nature or veracity of the inspections during operations. According to CORE, an inspection is a comprehensive survey of workplaces, personnel, processes, equipment, and tools. An audit is a comprehensive review of the company's health and safety management system. And CORE allows for in-house investigations, inspections, and audits for 2 out of every 3 years. Like many employers in this room, Ledcor has used a third-party auditor every year because we value the independent evaluation of our HS&E system, regardless of the provisions that allow for internal auditors. Third-party inspections, third-party targeted crane inspections had not been part of our program. According to manufacturers, tower cranes are expected to have a service life of 25 years, but there are many tower cranes working in construction that have exceeded this service life by 10, 20, even 30 years, and they are still operating at 100% capacity. The fact that they are still capable of operating is a testament to the quality of the manufacturer and design. However, time has proven that fatigue and therefore increased maintenance is a significant risk to the safety and service of the cranes, especially cranes of this vintage. So at Ledcor, Barry McCarty, our senior manager for HS&E, recommended a proposal to conduct independent, targeted inspections of several tower cranes on our active projects to verify maintenance condition, determine if they were compliant with OEM specifications, and our National Safety Committee approved it unanimously. We need to do this. Typical for the industry, most of the cranes on our Ledcor Vancouver sites are owned by forming contractors. Certain cranes were selected for inspection because of their age. Older cranes have seen the most lifetime use, probably require the most maintenance. Ledcor conducts a document verification process, and cranes in BC are also subject to WorkSafe BC crane inspections. So there was no expectation from us that the cranes would be found unsafe during these third-party inspections. It was to verify and confirm. And to reemphasize, in Vancouver, we currently have 17 tower cranes up and operating on Ledcor projects. 8 of these were manufactured in the 70s. So what did we find? Structural deficiencies in the bolts, missing bolts, loose bolts. Talk about finger tight, some of these were finger loose. Poor connections, missing lock plates, conditions indicative of incomplete maintenance and post-erection deficiencies. Several of the structural deficiencies were identified necessitating stop work until the crane owners could have their findings identified and verified by independent inspector, reviewed by their staff, validated by their engineer. Repairs and upgrades were validated and implemented before the cranes were put back in service. Examples of other structural deficiencies: bent, dented lattice in the apex sections, bent, dented lattice in the mast sections, bent, dented lattice in the boom sections, top cord of the boom, damaged trolley wire rope, significant corrosion in pendant lines, corrosion and heavy paint flaking on structural members. Here, the inspector ran a string line to reveal bowed lacings in excess of the 3 millimeter tolerance. Not the best photos in the world, so they probably won't make Story's book. But these examples, the tower sections have multiple weld repairs throughout the structural members, indicating metal fatigue. The lifespan of the original design of this particular crane, 500,000 cycles, 25 years. The horizontal top of the crane was manufactured in 1978. An inability to verify the data tags on the tower sections due to excessive paint layers, heavy flaking, resulted in not being able to verify manufacturer dates of the tower sections. There was no supporting documentation on the history of the tower sections. These should have been sandblasted, inspected, then primed and painted before placed into service with a service record to accurately memorialize the repair. These tower sections are in poor condition due to extensive corrosion, deteriorating paint condition, and our inspector even surmised that the paint might be lead paint. The jib seen here on the right has significant damage and deformation to the top cord. It exceeds maximum tolerance. A string line that was run tight showed the deflection of 10 millimeters. A clarification from the OEM engineer stated that they advised the crane be taken out of service immediately, and they were researching a possible repair or perhaps another component to replace the current jib. The email from Terex Cranes read, "Based on the jib photos I have seen, the upper cord appears to have sustained localized damage to the extent that we would advise the crane be taken out of service." Pretty straightforward, and we did exactly that, stop work with that crane. The cables. The pendant lines for this crane severely corroded with severe pitting on the individual wires. The condition indicates that these pendant lines have reached the end of their service life. They should not have been erected in this condition or placed into service. Ultimately, there were significant differences of opinion between the crane manufacturer, the wire rope manufacturer, and the crane owner's engineer regarding the condition of certain deficiencies, necessity for immediate repair, begging the question and concern of why 2 or more experts have such significant differences of opinion. To our knowledge, the engineer and independent inspector manufacturer did not adequately communicate, even though we provided contact details and encouraged communication. This opened up an opportunity for Ledcor to be that facilitator. To understand this condition, we contacted Unirope and replacement recommendations were confirmed. This wire rope is past any retirement criteria due to heavy corrosion. And given that the condition of the wire rope and likely age, it is estimated that the wire rope has a wear loss somewhere between 25 and 50%. Tower crane pennant lines are to be routinely lubricated as required by the manufacturer specifications. This is to keep the inner core from prematurely wearing and reducing corrosion on the wire rope. Cotter pins, rusted, not secured, too short, not tethered. This is a flaw noted over and over again in the inspections. It seems trivial, but then ask, what would happen if a cotter pin fell out or broke off during operations? What then? Who is verifying that the safety elements of the assembly have been properly installed and maintained? And who is verifying that any noted deficiencies have been addressed? This is the collective responsibility of the project teams and another reason for targeted third-party inspections. Our inspector even noted for the cotter pins, if they were to fall out, now you have a falling hazard at such heights, you could really do damage to equipment and, more importantly, to people. The trolley final limit, set-out limit for this particular crane set 5 foot from the trolley stop. Typically, it should be set about 12 is it 12 inches or 12 feet from the rubber stop? 12 inches. Here too, the wooden trolley radius markers have been installed on the jib using tie wire. The tie wire is not adequate to securing anything on a tower crane. Proper secure mounting brackets should be used in order to prevent falling object hazard. Our discussion with engineers, with the engineer and geoscientist of BC, formerly APEG BC, Stuart's going to follow me up here on stage, learned that they are working with industry and WorkSafe BC to create a guideline for how to write their reports. We noted there are no formal guidelines currently outlining how engineering reports should be written. Engineers have concluded that more of an explanation and justification is required from inspecting engineers. And Ledcor anticipates meeting with all of them to further discuss this for implementation. Our reports from the third-party inspecting engineer include a checklist, include multiple photographs, each of them about 18 pages long. We conducted independent reports on 5 of our cranes, so I'm going to spare you from going through page by page on all of them, but it's significant to see the similarities, but also the challenges faced by different cranes in different operating conditions. So our actions. The question is, how does Ledcor handle the information from its inspectors and notify its teams of safety concerns? Misadventures, you're all familiar with them. Contact with a high voltage electrical source, shock load, loss of load, brake failure, collision or upset, or any other circumstance that may impair the safe operation of the crane or hoist. So if a crane or hoist has been subject to a misadventure, it must be removed from service until a professional engineer has supervised an inspection of and supervised any necessary repairs to the equipment, certified the equipment as safe for use at the manufacturer's rated capacity for the equipment. This is not just the judgment of our project superintendent. It is not just the judgment of the crane operator. Certified for safe use. So Ledcor issues its safety alerts internally to all of our teams when we have incidents on our projects, any HS&E incident. I've highlighted here some of our specific crane incidents, and when determining a flash level, the criteria asks the author to choose based on the actual or realistic potential consequences of the incident. While this is a judgment call, the flash notification is influenced by the following factors. People. Most importantly, how did or will this incident impact the people on and around our sites? Assets. what damage was caused or may have been caused by the incident to any equipment or materials. Environment, is there any impact to the environment and to what extent? Reputation, how does this incident impact the reputation and or public image of Ledcor, its clients, and its construction partners? And security, did this incident impact security, create a loss of property due to a criminal act? Knowing that situations can almost always be worse, we sometimes escalate the level beyond actual, so we need to be wary of our term over-flashing, and in doing so, dilution of the emphasis and seriousness attributed to A flashes. In other words, we're very careful about how we discuss these incidents because we want to draw attention to our teams, our subcontractors, to make sure that they're given the proper amount of attention and given the gravitas they deserve. You're probably missing the pictures already. There's a lot of writing on these slides. I apologize for that. But Ledcor in Vancouver shared its experiences with the recent independent inspections conducted on cranes on their projects with operations and safety staff in its regional offices across Canada. Ledcor has engaged with the workplace regulator, WorkSafe BC, director of BC Crane Safety Association, and HS&E managers of several general contractors, with the goal of making this an industry challenge, not solely a Ledcor-centric issue. One of the interesting discussions in our meetings was the necessity to track crane downtime in order to show how relevant good maintenance and third-party inspections, how relevant this is to proper and effective crane operations. Vancouver's Ledcor team has requested that the inspector return to Vancouver to conduct additional inspections. So there will be more information to share and review and from which we'll learn after the next round of inspections have been completed. This, for us, is the new standard for crane inspections. The third-party inspections underscore the real need for an independent review after both the inspection prior to inspection and inspection at erection have been completed. It was startling for us to learn that the system that we relied upon, the system we used to verify that the cranes were safe and in good order, was missing important content. For Ledcor and its subcontractors, all of the cranes went back into service, subject to engineers' review, and the independent inspectors' inspection reports, engineers' own investigation of the deficiencies. In some cases, the engineer directed and approved repairs. In other cases, it indicated that the deficiency repairs could be postponed until a later date at the convenience of the crane owner and operator, or even as the crane was being dismantled. Our thanks goes to the third-party inspector whose findings led us to this point in our learning process, Gregory Teslia from Crane Safety and Inspections, Inc. It helped us to realize and answer the question, why is this so important to our industry? A record number of cranes in use in many cities across the country and around the world. Aging inventory, like all of us, just keeps getting older. And it's more than just the client's problem, more than the crane owner's problem, more than the subcontractor's problem. This is something that we all must address in the interest of safety and proper protocols on our project sites. And this, for us at Ledcor, is how we think safety and work safely. I'm short on my time, but I'll cede the rest of it to Stuart, but I want to thank you all, understanding the importance, from our perspective, of third-party crane inspections. Thank you.